Mike Tyson, when the bell rings, he conducts himself as if someone stole something from him.
Hi, I'm Mike Tyson, heavyweight champ of the world. Let's talk boxing.
I got in some trouble, and I went away to this reformatory upstate New York, and I met a gentleman named Bobby Stewart that was a boxer.
Tyson told Stewart that he wanted to learn how to box. Stewart then brought Tyson to a gym above the police station in Catskill, New York, to meet Customato.
He taught Mike from the age of 13 to the age of 19 how to control his emotions.
When you were first coming up, when you were Kid Dynamite on Sports Illustrated, I'll never forget that.
We saw Mike Tyson's professional debut. Hard to believe it's just about a month ago.
In watching the early Mike Tyson fights, he seems to be like an unstoppable force, uniquely devastating, uniquely offensively capable.
Down goes Singleton again. This boy is tough. And he's just a perpetual motion machine so far. This isn't going to go too long. The referee humanely has seen enough. Tyson shrugs almost as if disappointed that the fight is over so quick.
Customato had a tremendous influence on Mike Tyson.
I met this white guy, and he was strange, a little odd, and he started saying things like, wow, you could be the greatest fighter ever lived.
Can Tyson finish this? I think so. 13-12, you know. All of a sudden, I have a low self-esteem. This guy gives me this big ego.
And a dominator ego.
Yeah.
Right?
When Customato trained you,
that's it. See, ain't no way he's going to hit you then, right?
you were fierce.
And remember, it's always good to throw the punch where you could hit him, he can't hit you. That's what the science of boxing is all about.
Tyson was like a sponge. He just absorbed everything that Cuss had to teach him. You know, the head movement, throwing the punches with bad intentions.
Cuss took us to the gym and pointed to a young boy who was hitting the heavy bag very ferociously and said, "That's Mike Tyson. Not only is he here, but he will undoubtedly go on to become the youngest heavyweight champion in history."
Look at the size of him. He looks like the Incredible Hulk. He really does. In that case, I'm glad I'm not Michael Jack Johnson.
Look at a guy like Mike Tyson in his prime. I mean, he was the epitome of dedication.
He looked unstoppable. He looked like a different planet of ability.
I'll tell you, Michael Jack Johnson earned his money the hard way tonight.
Well, there's not much to say about that knockout except to watch.
But he was far more than a big puncher. He's a very good boxer.
Forget what the press releases say. He's only 5'10". Some would have you believe he's 6 foot. He is not a big heavyweight. He's only a kid.
And when he was being trained by Customato, he was living the complete total existence of a man hell-bent on becoming the world champion.
The help that Cuss gave Mike was not only in the ring, but out of the ring.
Being part of Customato's family was therapeutic. It gave him direction, it gave him order, it gave him care, loving.
Tyson's teens were spent in the D'Amato family. Cuss eventually adopted him.
There's only so much punishment anybody can take. That is the limit of Sterling Benjamin's endurance.
You have a sledgehammer, man. You know, when I go down there, I feel it. He really hit hard. It's the hardest I've ever been hit.
It is the hardest here.
The hardest of my whole career, man.
But it's getting harder and harder now to find anybody who wants anything to do with him. I mean, no fighter wants to get run over by a truck.
There isn't a lot of flash in Khabib's training. Grueling distance runs. Altitudes of 2,000 meters above sea level. Often in freezing temperatures. It's old school, time-tested, hard work. But the results of this training speak for themselves. Strengthened by his environment, the ferocity of Khabib's training had grown into a local legend. Substance over style. The methods of Khabib are not glamorous.
Khabib comes in, he's got 5 guys. What the workout is going to be is one by one, Khabib is going to work out with each guy until each guy gives up. My coach said the workout was 90 minutes. The first guy was the most talented guy, made it 20.
Watch how long it takes this camera guy to show us the round number.
Boom, perfect.
Floyd was throwing jabs and working the bag before he could walk.
His father and his Uncle Roger, both well-regarded pros.
Mayweather comes from a family of fighters and boxers, and they raised their son and nephew from the time he was in the crib throwing jabs and left hooks with rattles.
I can say it, I guess it's in the blood.
Mayweather's insane competitiveness and drive for an eternal legacy has blossomed into a relentless style of 24-hour-a-day, on-call training.
And here's another thing that Floyd has going for him. Conditioning.
Unfathomable.
He's always in tremendous shape. Always. Just always in shape.
Dedication, hard work. Dedication, hard work.
Most athletes adhere to strict workout schedules. Floyd, however, is not most athletes. He works out up to 4 times a day at unpredictable hours. Mayweather believes he gains a competitive and psychological edge by training while his opponents are sleeping. They love to hate him. More importantly, they paid to hate him. The crowd was almost entirely pro-Hatton. The rich, powerful, and famous all flocked to the event.
A diverse and star-studded celebrity group.
Honey, do you think KFC's still open?
My man.
Wesley Snipes just on the other side of Denzel here. Brad Pitt and Angelina.
The undefeated fighting pride of Manchester, England, Ricky Hitman Hatton.
He was beating up popular, good fighters, and he was unpopular with most people, actually.
Pretty boy Floyd, a.k.a. Money.
But they paid to see him lose, and that was his stated strategy behind the scenes, and then later on he admitted it.
You like watching Floyd Mayweather fight? Feast your eyes.
Floyd Mayweather's on a completely different planet.
It was a clinic. Mayweather embarrassed Hatton, KOing the undefeated fighter in the 10th round.
Well, he's one of the great pure boxers who ever lived. He has never cheated himself. He always was in condition. He had no off nights.
Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer in the world.
To the next level. She moved to Florida and joined the renowned American Top Team.
You going?
A move she credits for taking her skills to the next level.
This is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. There you go. Does that look like a fighter's body? Clearly not.
At the time, I wasn't training.
Have a look. Fat man. That's who beat you. Shame on you, man.
I've not been in the gym for months. I've not been training. I've been going through depression. I just don't want to live anymore.
For those that don't know, Tyson Fury has pulled out of the rematch with Vladimir Klitschko at the MEN because of mental health issues.
I was sitting here, 400 pounds, a drug addict, an alcoholic. I didn't care about nothing, I just wanted to die so bad. I give up on life. And just as I was heading towards that bridge at 190 in this Ferrari, it had crushed like a Coke can by the way I'd hit it. I heard a voice say, no, don't do this, Tyson. Think about your kids. Think about your family and your little boys and girls growing up with no father. And everyone saying your dad was a weak man. He left us. He took the easy way out because he couldn't do anything about it. And for the first time in years, I knew I was going to make a comeback. You know, you got to crack on and realise that you did it to yourself. So there's no pity for an idiot. Just want to say I'm coming back better than I ever was before.
And after that, he loses it all, blows up to 400 pounds. He looks like he's basically done.
Very heavy.
Ballooned in weight 400 pounds and retired and seemed to be having an emotional breakdown and a mental breakdown.
And I sees this video of Deontay Wilder saying, yeah, Tyson Fury's finally done that because he can never come back. It gave me that much more motivation to return. Just so I can beat Deontay Wilder.
And he was a boxing villain at that point. And he has built himself back up. He's gotten himself back in the ring. He's tried to clean up his life.
Unbeaten in 40 fights, WBC champion, the biggest puncher in heavyweight history. After the layoff, I've had 2.5 years out of the ring. I was never defeated inside a boxing ring. And I wanted to fight the best when I came back.
He's gonna feel pain that he never felt before.
The problem is they're both unbeaten. They've both got unbelievable self-belief.
My boxing ability's never been in question. I've never lost anything from my boxing ability. My movement, my feints, my IQ, nothing. All I did was pile a lot of weight on.
I will say this about Wilder. The right hand is something special.
Well, you question Deontay Wilder's power! The proof is in the banana!
I didn't come to be embarrassed by this little skinny runt.
But I guess what I'm asking, that being out of the game for 2.5 years, I mean, don't you need a little bit more time to prepare?
Even though he retired and got stripped and hadn't fought in a while and everything, in boxing tradition, if that dude is still undefeated, no one's beaten him in the ring, and he beat the champ to become the champ, he has a claim to the lineal title.
Los Angeles, December the 1st, a day of destiny at the Staples Center.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, he's back!
Please welcome the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury!
Boxing world who still believe this is the true heavyweight champion of the world, and nobody else is going to be able to claim that until they've beaten him. And the Gypsy King is back, centre stage. And if he can win tonight, there's going to be one heck of a party.
Please welcome the WBC heavyweight champion of the world from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the bronze bomber, Deontay Wilder!
Well, Wilder came on my show earlier this week as well. He said, I'm going to whip as you know what, and then we're going to go party. That's exactly what he said. And he means it. And I have no doubt that he means it. When you're 40-0 with 39 KOs, you mean what you say.
Round one, we are about to learn the truth.
My initial prediction was that he'll take Tyson Fury out in the 7th or 8th round.
Tyson Fury is the best in the world. This is why he's undefeated. Even if it goes past 6 rounds, you never feel comfortable. He's orthodox or he's southpaw, he's against the ropes, he's throwing jabs, he's making you chase him, he's making you uncomfortable, so you never get into that kind of trance of a fight. That's what makes Tyson Fury special.
A bit more showboating from Fury.
I think Deontay Wilder knocks Tyson Fury, finishes him in under 10. I don't know if Tyson Fury, after 8 rounds, can avoid the big power punches from Deontay Wilder.
Difficult to see what the clear shot was. He's on his feet, but we said it only takes one. And Fury.
I know I got to have balls like King Kong to step in the ring with Tyson Fury.
King Kong ain't got on. And this is the moment of truth for Fury. This is where he has to somehow find a way to survive.
Like I say, if I can't be the best, I ain't going to be second place or third either. There's no place for me in boxing to be anything other than number 1. So that's what I got to do. I've got to beat this man to be the best.
And Deontay Wilder has power in the 1st round, the same power in the 10th round, and the 11th round, and we've seen that.
Wilder needs one huge bingo punch.
Against Deontay Wilder, looking for all the world like he's pulling another upset. There's a right.
And down he goes! Right hand, left hand! Down he goes!
Mamma mia! Deontay Wilder has done it!
Has there ever been a doubt in your mind where you think, I'm not going to get up?
No. Because if I open my eyes, I know I can get up. Wilder's celebrating like it's over, but the Gypsy King gets up.
Wow, he got up!
You want to go? What will the come back to me?
Incredible turn of events here in the 12th!
It's become a meme now when Tyson gets back up because Deontay's over there dancing and all of a sudden he looks and can't believe.
The way Tyson Fury got up from that right hand, you don't see a guy who's taking time off, who's had drug problems, who's ballooned up to 400 pounds, all this stuff, that he's the guy who boxes like that.
And Fury may well have won back the World Heavyweight title.
The time had come for Manny to take the next step. He packed his bags and headed for America. Despite being a champion in Asia, Pacquiao couldn't find a promoter who would work with him. Until he met Freddie Roach.
Well, they walked in my gym about 12 years ago, him and Mr. Nazario, his manager at the time, and he asked me to work the mitts with him, and after 1 round on the mitts, I walked over to my people, I said, wow, this kid can fight.
Roach had trained over 25 world champion fighters.
You know, that 1st round really told me something. I've seen guys fast before, and I've seen guys with power before, but never someone that had both.
It wasn't long before Pacquiao would get his chance. The super bantamweight champion was scheduled to defend his title, but his opponent dropped out. On just 2 weeks' notice, Pacquiao agreed to fight the bigger, stronger, and much more known champion.
All right, upcoming, Leshanolo Ledwaba will be taking on Manny Pacquiao. And for more on that, let's go back downstairs to Jim Lampley. Jim?
Leshanolo Ledwaba against Manny Pacquiao. I'll get it right. Pacquiao
was a late-minute replacement against Lelo Ledwaba, who was considered a guy on the rise on pound-for-pound list, top 10 type, maybe a heavy favorite.
Now the opponent is a real pro.
For the IBF Super Bantamweight Championship of the World.
Pacquiao.
Say Pacquiao.
Pacquiao should fight here. He shouldn't try to get into a boxing match with this master boxer.
This guy just hit so hard.
I had never seen him. I frankly had never heard of him. But I've seen and heard of him now.
That'll be it. Joe Cortez says it's over. A 6th-round KO.
That's a TKO victory for the very impressive Manny Pacquiao, who takes a good fighter and just takes him apart.
Pacquiao established himself as a crowd-pleasing entry into the featherweight division.
And now, a two-time world champion, he is now the reigning IBF Super Bantamweight Champion of the world, Manny Pacquiao.
I was watching Nate beat him up on the ground and then choke him. I was like, ooh.
It was the first loss of his UFC career and ended his 15-fight win streak.
Describe the emotions after a loss like that.
You know, it stings real bad, but this is the fight business. I've been on the end of many defeats in my life, and I've rose back, so I will not shy away from it. I will not make excuses for it. I will assess it and come back.
And it's headlined by the rematch between the notorious Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz.
Revenge, redemption, retribution.
Prediction.
He knows it.
Happen.
He knows it. Pain is the prediction.
Thank you.
Pain.
The guy steps in, he loses to Diaz, right? Takes the Diaz fight on short notice. Oh, by the way, after a staph infection. Here's something that a lot of people don't even know. He had a pretty significant staph infection, was on antibiotics until, like, I think 2 weeks before the fight. If you don't think that drains your gas tank, you never had a staph infection and you never had to take antibiotics.
Nothing external can defeat the internal. The only thing that can take someone down or break you down is internal.
Conor's training methods are anything but traditional.
Work hard, put in the time, you will succeed.
Was that he was obsessive about it. He was going to do nothing else all day, every day, other than train.
Movement and balance are key components in the Irishman's regimen.
That hurts me just looking at it.
Despite many doubting Conor would win at the 170 welterweight at.
Here we go!
Brutal leg kicks he's landing on Nate.
Conor started with relentless leg kicks. He was also much more controlled, clearly preserving his energy for later rounds.
I'll fight Nate at 70. I'll 45, sure, I'll murk Aldo in 13 seconds.
1-0 McGregor.
Very different than the first round of their first fight. Did not blow himself out.
And I'll come to 55. Like, we've never seen this kind of creativity.
Tag left. He heard him with that. Get back up. That's 2, Joe.
If he couldn't knock out Diaz, he would outskill him and take him the distance.
Conor looks perfect thus far.
Conor was breathing very heavy in between rounds, and we're moving in to round number 3.
Much more calculated in this fight, Joe, and still breathing heavy.
Yep.
Even the best laid plans often go afoul.
Conor is fading radically here. Nate is sensing Conor McGregor getting tired, and he's starting to put pressure on Conor. Defending in this kind of clinch battle is brutal and draining.
Final seconds of the round. Just trying to survive. Wow.
Huge round for Nate Diaz.
And this much anticipation for a fight It's absolutely wonderful when the fight is like the one we're watching right now,
Joe. You need to switch from muscle work to intelligence work.
Loma also trains in skating, juggling, tennis, and gymnastics.
Traditional boxing exercises are alternated with non-standard methods.
Anything that may aid in some way to his boxing repertoire.
On my boxing life, he gave me special exercises. I do not boxing exercises.
Yeah, unconventional.
Yeah, his training regimen is pretty brutal, and they said it was just crazy, the hours that he puts in, how he trains, how hard he trains, and some of the drills that he does.
The way he's so agile with the stepping of his feet. It's like, I think a lot of people are going to learn and mirror that.
You're fighting for the first time in the history of boxing that two-time gold medalists are getting in the ring.
Lomachenko. He dodges punches like Neo dodges bullets. Fittingly, he's been nicknamed the Matrix.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window.
Next thing I know, I'm 2 or 3 rounds into it, and I'm going, he's playing with Rigondeaux.
Yeah.
Playing with him. I'm going, how?
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
But it's all set up by his feet. Look at his feet.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
He is the Matrix with his angles.
The other title holders were understandably less than enthusiastic about being dismantled in the Matrix.
Undefeated world champion, and he's toying with him.
He is the one.
He's saying, I don't want any more. God. Are you kidding me? The undefeated number 7 pound-for-pound fighter is not coming out to continue against...
Another opponent quitting on his stool, submitting to the will of Lomachenko.
Yeah, I'm giving a new name to Lomachenko. No-Muz-Chenko. There it is.
That's the fight that really sold me on Lomachenko, that he's that good.
The feared brute, known as Big George Foreman, disappeared from the public consciousness.
During a 10-year break from boxing, George Foreman contemplated what Ali had taken from him.
One of the beautiful things that he did is he acknowledged the ability of Muhammad Ali and acknowledged that loss and put a shrine up in his home.
This is the proof that I was in the fight with him. Freshman round, I started to not only be happy about my life, but be happy about the life I lived before and put them together and become an evangelist.
14 years ago, Foreman retired from boxing to preach the word of God.
The little fame and fortune we get is not going to follow us in the grave, brother, sister.
He would find his peace in his faith, serving as a minister for the next 10 years.
During that 10-year absence, at any time, did you have the desire to come back?
10 years, I didn't even shadow box.
He became a terrific father.
You've got 5 sons, 5 daughters. I know you're very proud of all of them.
They're all named George. I named all my sons George Edward Foreman.
In 1984, he had started the George Foreman Youth and Community Center.
He opened his own youth center, emptying his entire savings to do so.
Giving money for scholarships for kids to go to school. I had to keep that up.
He would hold fundraisers to keep the center going, but as his money ran out, George was in danger of losing it all.
The youth center started to take every dime I could get. It started costing everything to get a foundation, lawyer fees, building. I wanted to go out and do myself, and I ran out of money, and that's the reason I even got myself back into boxing.
13 years after losing his title, George Foreman began the seemingly impossible task of regaining it.
I said, I got to go back into boxing. I asked my wife, I said, what do you think? She said, they're going to kill you. Don't do it. You look, you're 300 pounds, you're too old, you'll never be champion of the world, because they thought I wanted it overnight. But I looked in the mirror and said, you know, They're telling the truth. I'm pretty old here.
Tomorrow night, veteran boxer George Foreman will put on the gloves and climb back into the ring after almost a decade in retirement.
But I'm going to start from the bottom. I know how to promote. I know how to recreate. I know how to get myself back in shape.
Just as unceremoniously as he had retired, he returned, fighting no-name opponents and journeymen.
So I came back, I got a scale, I was 315 pounds.
That's a knockdown because no, it isn't. It should have been. He went against the ropes. Right. I think Howie wants to quit. That's it.
And then when people started to take him seriously because they were tantalized by a charming, fat old heavyweight, I just swooned at their gullibility.
George was viewed as a joke, held up as an example of the decline of the sport of boxing. Cash grabbing on his past accomplishments.
Well, George Foreman wins on a TKO. It is his 8th straight wins.
An aging, overweight has-been.
They laughed at me. And people wrote me from all over the world, George, don't do it.
Trying to recapture that glory.
But the one thing they all had in common who would write me, there wasn't a dime in the mail.
Carefully and quietly, he rounded himself back into boxing form.
They laughed at me and I fought one fight after another. One after another. They laughed. The more I win, the more they would joke. George Foreman is not fighting anyone.
That is George Foreman, the 39-year-old ex-champ.
As his competition rose, opponents were dead set on proving the old man was finished.
Yeah, he still has that unbelievable punching power, even though he's got a belly and he looks like he's shambling around in his pajamas. He's still got something.
But here he is, 3 years later, so I have to salute him. Salute him for pulling off one of the great scams in boxing history, which, trust me, is saying a lot. Skeptics out there who think that George now is more King Khan than King Kong. With the fighter he's fighting, he's going to have to punch and try to club him and just keep beating him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So you see no chance that George can win the fight?
Very little.
Very little.
Foreman looked to become the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history. But despite the optimism of the crowd, few gave Foreman more than a puncher's chance.
Middle-aged men don't knock out 25-year-old heavyweight champions.
He would be the oldest to win the heavyweight title by a huge margin over Walcott, who was 37, when he beat Ezzard Charles.
I always thought if the George Foreman from the Rumble in the Jungle had the brain of the George Foreman who fought Michael Moore, that's the greatest fighter ever.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I'm the boss man in here. Take your hands to lunch.
George, how are you going to find him? You haven't fought in a long time. He moves in there. He goes at a different angle. He's a southpaw. He wouldn't stand still for Holyfield. Why would he stand still for you? And George said, you watch, somewhere late in the fight, he's going to come stand in front of
And
him.
in the press, the feeling was that Michael would be too sharp, too fast, too young, and Big George too slow and too big and too old. This colossus of heavyweight boxing, a man with a foot in several decades. If people over the last 2 or 3 months think this fight shouldn't take place, think that George is putting himself in danger of real and serious injury.
The shadow of Ali loomed large over the career and legacy of Foreman.
The vibrations against him, the planets against him, but already he lost the first 5 rounds.
Michael Moore will go back to Teddy Atlas. Big George will lumber back slightly slower.
The hardest part of the fight is over. Now you know it's not make-believe anymore.
Teddy Atlas telling him
our sparring partners were better.
The hardest part of the fight is over. You know what he's made of. Our sparring partners were better. We're round 8. Foreman's trailing, losing, but not out of the fight.
Get all you got, George.
That's a fantastic short left cross from Moore, wrong-footed and sent Foreman stumbling.
George Foreman had never openly sought specific redemption for his demise against Ali in Zaire, but it's revealing that he chose to wear the same trunks on this night that he had worn in the jungle 20 years before.
George Foreman in the shorts he wore that night in Zaire to rumble in the jungle when he lost his world heavyweight title.
I told you, I'm the champion of the world.
But he always saw the ghost of Muhammad Ali, and everybody has felt all along that you're always chasing the ghost of Ali. Does this make you catch that ghost?
I'm the greatest. You know having the business in the ring with me.
That's it! It's a short right hand! There is no way he's going to knock from that!
It happened. It happened.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Chasing the ghost of Ali. Does this make you catch that ghost?
Yeah, I've exercised the ghost once and forever.
George
20 years after being beaten by Ali, Big George Foreman recaptured the heavyweight championship.
Nobody brings it home like Joe.
Nobody. Make it so.